Hi everyone and welcome back to Brush and Bubbles. If you're new here, then welcome to the family. We bring you new art tutorials so you can get creative from home. And if you haven't painted in years or ever, then you're definitely in the right place because we break everything down into step-by-step instructions so you can follow along from the comfort of your own house. So today we are going abstract, which is why I'm wearing this shirt. And if you haven't painted in a really long time, then this is the perfect painting to jump into because it doesn't really matter what you do. As long as you're happy with the colours you're creating and the shapes you're creating, that's all that matters. So we're going to be starting with one layer, creating different shapes and different colours. We'll then let it dry, add another layer on top, and then we're finishing off with some doodles and extra drawing on top of all of that paint. So I'm just going to talk you through quickly what you'll need to create the painting at home. To start with, I just recommend covering a table with some tablecloth or old newspaper. You'll need a canvas, any size canvas will do, but I'm using this tiny cute little weenie one. You'll need a couple of different size brushes, and depending on the size of your canvas, you can judge this accordingly. I've got a small brush and then a tiny weeny little brush. You'll then need some kitchen towel, a pot or a glass of water, a palette to pop all of your paints in, your acrylic paints, and you can really go wild with any colours and shades that you want to. You don't have to follow along with me at all. I always say, as long as you're happy with the shades and the colours that you're using, that's all that matters. I've also got here some acrylic pens. So these aren't actually real pens, they've actually got acrylic paint in them, and I haven't used them before, so we're going to experiment with them together. If you haven't got pens like this, then definitely do not worry. You can use felt tip pens if you want to, you can even go in with crayons if you want to, or just with a black ballpoint pen will work as well. And if you haven't got any pens, then do not worry because you can just use good old normal paint. So I recommend just setting yourself up, making sure you're really comfortable and you're relaxed. You can pop some music on if you want to, go grab yourself a drink or make yourself a cup of tea, and then we're going to jump straight into our abstract painting. So to start with, I'm just going to sketch out a few different shapes and patterns that I'm then going to paint in with some block colours as my first layer of this abstract painting. So for that, I'm just going to pick up my small brush and I'm just going to mix up a really light pastel yellow colour. So I'm just mixing up some white and a tiny bit of yellow and giving it a good mix. So with this, I'm just going to start drawing in a few random shapes into my canvas, just because I can then go in and start filling them out and doing a few different bits and pieces with them. So I'm just drawing some swirls. Remember to wrap them around the canvas as well as you go. Maybe even some circles. I think just go wild with this. It doesn't really matter what you do because we're going to be adding so much on top of it. This is just our first layer. So as soon as you have your first shapes in there, this is your chance just to go wild with all of your colour mixing, really. You can do anything you like. So I think I'm going to start, because I've got yellow on my brush, using some yellow. I'm just going to make a more bright, vibrant yellow. Adding a bit of water to the mixture as well, just to help it be a little bit more fluid. Now I'm just going to colour in some random sections with this yellow. Once you're happy with that, we just want to give our little brush a good wash. You can now move on to mixing up your next colour. So I think I'm going to go for a very pastel pink shade. So I'm going to start with white as my base. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of pink to it and give it a good mix. As soon as you're happy with your next shade, you can just go ahead and fill in any of the other shapes that you wish with this colour. As soon as you're happy with that, you can just go ahead and wash your little brush again. And what's nice about this painting is you can just add the shapes as you go. So I've added in that sort of triangle shape, I've added in that circle, so you can just be really free with what you're adding and what you're doing with your painting. So I'm just going to mix up my next colour. So I think I'm going to go for a lighter blue. So I'm just going to pick up some blue, pick up some white and give it a good mix. I'm now just going to fill in some of this blue section, and if you want to, you can always move to a smaller brush if you want to be a little bit more delicate with some of the areas and the shapes that you're creating. Whenever you're ready, you can wash off your brushes and then you can move on to just mixing up your next colour. So I think I'm going to mix up these two greens together with a little bit of white. So I'm just going to pick up that lighter green, pick up the slightly darker green, and then I'm going to add a little bit of white to it and give it a good mix. And then go ahead and fill this colour in too. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and mix up your next colour. So I think I'm going to go for a really light purple shade. So I'm going to have predominantly white and then just a little bit of purple. So I've just mixed up a turquoise colour here using some blue and some green together, which is kind of a nice colour. So just experiment with your own shades until you're happy. So once you've finished your first layers, you can either leave it to dry for about 10 minutes or give it a little dry with the hairdryer, and then we're going to go back in and add even more on top. So this is looking a little bit crazy at the moment, which is what we want. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go back in and start drawing other patterns over the top. So this just becomes background. And I really like the shapes and the patterns of plants. So I think I'm going to do a few palm leaf kind of styles in there and shapes. And then I might also go in with my pens and just have an experiment with them. So this is your chance to decide what you want to do. You might want to do plants, you might want to do more shapes, you might want to do dots and stripes. It's totally up to you. Just go with whatever you're feeling. So I've mixed up a colour here using white, blue and green, and I'm just going to use this as my next shade to draw over the top of all of this. Now I'm just going to carry on with a few different shades, doing different leaf patterns on my painting. Once you're happy with all of your neck shapes or leaves, you just want to give it another dry with a hairdryer, or again just leave it for about 10 minutes before we move on to the next layer. So as soon as that layer is dry, this is where we're just going to add a few more extra details and pops of colour. So you might want to use some white paint, you might want to add some black paint to your palette. I might give these pens a little experiment, and I've actually got a little piece of card here just to have a go on the card first. So let's give this a go. So this is the white one. Obviously I can't see it on here. That's very good, Lara. Let's start with the pink. So I'm thinking it might be nice just to draw some squiggles and some dots and some extra shapes onto the canvas, but equally you can do this with black, white or pink paint, so I might not need them, but I think it would just be good to give them a little experiment. So here we go. I'm going to use this white one. I'm just going to add little circles. It's not that pigmented. White paint might actually be better. It's probably better for drawing with. So I think I'm going to use white paint instead for this. I just picked up some white paint with my tiny little brush. I'm just going to add little blobs to the end of this random little plant here. I'm now going to have a little play with this black pen because I think it might be fun to outline some things. So I'm just going to carefully outline this plant, but I want it to look like I'm doodling on the painting, which I am. So I'm not going to be too precise with how I'm drawing this on. I'm just going to have a little play around. So let's see what this looks like. Okay. Now I wonder if I draw with the white one, if it will look a bit better. This still doesn't seem that pigmented to me, so I'm going to go over that with white paint. I'm just using this black pen to add a few other shapes and maybe even add extra details. So as soon as you're finished adding in all of the details that you want, you have then completed your mini abstract masterpiece. I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. I absolutely loved creating this. And I'm even thinking it might be really fun to do an absolute huge one. So if you think that that'll be something you'd like to watch, then just write a comment below and I'll get a huge big canvas and we'll do a really massive one. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then please just give us a little thumbs up. And if you have any requests for future paintings, again, just pop them in the comments below and we'll see what we can do. If you want to be the first to know whenever we've got new tutorials like this, then simply subscribe to our channel. We've also got loads of other tutorials available for you to watch now, so you can just click the link above and it will take you to a whole array of different paintings. Thank you all so much for watching.